All right, everyone, Kamala Harris is basically done as a candidate. Even if her campaign continues, she's closing New Hampshire offices and basically reducing her staff to zero there. She's ceding the state of New Hampshire. That's not a great sign for a campaign. Usually, it's okay to fixate on one or two of the starting states and prioritize them. But when you can't even maintain the appearance of continuing to campaign in a state, you know that they've rejected you. The fact is that for the Democrats, New Hampshire is one of the most important. It's like the Republicans establishing that they can get small-town Iowa to vote for them. For the Democrats, having a significant boost in a place like New Hampshire, probably going to be the premier swing state of this election cycle. I think New Hampshire might be closer than Florida this time around. So don't take that to the bank because we have a lot more polls and analysis to look at. But I think that that is a dynamic that I'm beginning to see. I think New England, New Hampshire, and Maine, the Rust Belt growing more red. I think some places like Nevada, Colorado, they're no longer really on the table for Republicans. By the way, Arizona's not going to go blue. There are people making that dumb prediction again this election cycle. Or Montana, or even Utah, because Romney will get angry at Trump and say bad things. Stop worrying about that. The Republicans are nuts if they waste all their time in places like Georgia and Arizona. You need to prioritize the Rust Belt and the Mid-Atlantic and New Hampshire and Maine. That's basically what you do. Throw some weight at the Pacific Northwest, get a paradigm shift up there, and you can counterbalance New Mexico and some of these other states, by the way. Here's the thing. Kamala Harris always had one big disadvantage, and that's that she's the slightly younger version of Elizabeth Warren pretending to be a leftist, but she never had the advantage of having huge amounts of money from corporations that she could take from the last campaign. Elizabeth Warren had this advantage. In her Senate campaign, the last time she ran for re-election, she spent most of that time sucking corporations off. I have no doubt that behind the scenes she was telling them exactly what her plan was. Hey, I'm going to take a lot of corporate money now. Don't worry, I owe you favors, but I'm not going to be able to suck your cock during the general election, at least early on in 2020, because I need to appear grassroots. Otherwise, Bernie Sanders will edge me out. I need to get at least a minority of those far-left voters, along with some pragmatic voters that don't like Biden. If I can cobble them together, I'll win. You let me do that, and I'll kiss ring. That's what Elizabeth Warren did. She went into this election the day she announced with tens of millions of dollars of corporate cash in her war chest. For the first few months, therefore, of the primaries, she doesn't have to do anything corporate. She can lambaste them. She can abuse them verbally. And there's with a wink and a nudge, of course. She can say, well, I swear off corporate PACs. I won't beg them for money, because you already did. Well, you don't need to beg twice. It's not like they need to make another donation when they've already given you huge amounts of money. So she could pretend to be grassroots. She had a lot of money. She could survive that. Kamala Harris can't. Her campaign is near broke. I think Joe Biden's still having money problems too. It's funny, your front runner has money problems. Don't you think that's a sign of things to come if he becomes your nominee, which he probably still will? And then with Elizabeth Warren being a total fake, phony progressive, Kamala Harris is the same, but without the money. It became a problem. Her claim to fame was doing well in the first debate. That's not that high a threshold. Considering the front runners in the field, the fact that she was more verbose than a couple of geriatric dudes and a woman who, whenever confronted, even by people who genuinely like her, she looks like a deer in the headlights, that's not a major victory. Had he been given enough time to speak, she would have been totally outshined by Buttigieg anyway. He's continuously won every single debate, in my opinion. It's just they won't let him speak enough. By the way, is it just me or does he look vaguely like Bashar al-Assad sometimes? Like in the proper lighting. But no, Kamala Harris is done. And when you can't compete in New Hampshire, is not a good harbinger. Where's she going to put all of her remaining effort? Is she just going to throw it all to Iowa and hope to come in the top 3 to have a handful of delegates so that she can be queen maker? Maybe. Or maybe she drops out. I wouldn't expect it. Here's the thing. Even if she's on her way down, no longer viable, she's sub 5 points in some polls. There's still no reason, particularly as long as she can run a shoestring-style campaign, to drop out at least before the first few states. Like, if you get through Nevada and South Carolina and you haven't come in the top 3 in any of the first 4 states, you're done. That, by the way, that's the death knell of a campaign. Anyone who stays in after that point should be crucified by the DNC. Unfortunately, they're too spineless to do that. If you only come in second or third in a couple of the states, you should probably drop out. You're not really viable at that point unless the front runner happens to have a stroke. I think the sharks are circling and genuinely interested in whether Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden even survives through Super Tuesday. Considering the health problems that these people have, and the fact that Elizabeth Warren, another one of the front runners, is 71 going on 72, it's funny. Somebody posted a picture this morning, a cartoon, a political cartoon, and it shows the top 4 candidates lined up, and it's like, you've got Biden, Sanders, and Warren. They're all riding like, those elderly scooters. And then it shows Buttigieg, and it's like a kid on a tricycle with a helmet. And that is basically, those are the front runners. And now number 5, could be poised to drop out. Withdrawing from New Hampshire is a sign of things to come. She is done. It's just a matter of, can she continue to gobble down donations, pretend she's still in it to win it, maybe build a war chest to roll over into some other campaign. She can spend it on ads she can go into Congress or something. But she was never really viable to begin with. She has the right age, and everything else has been consistently against her. It was funny because when she was peaking there, people were like, well, we told you, Sticks. Hillary Clinton, she kissed Hillary Clinton's ring, and so Hillary Clinton has chosen Kamala Harris to be her heir. It's never going to happen. She was never viable. She peaked too quickly. She was a one-off. When the American people, specifically Democratic primary voters, saw who she really was, the majority of them rejected her. Most of them are already spoken for anyway. There's a very slim number of people at this point left to compete for. Most of the Democrats have chosen at least who they support. And so you've got a handful of people who the jury's still out for, maybe 20 or 30% of the Dems, some independents that'll vote in the Dem primaries. Because, I mean, there'll be a lot of Republicans voting in the Democratic primaries in a lot of states. There's nothing to do. On Trump's side, he gets 95% of the vote anyway. Who fucking cares? It's a bore fest. Trump's already been nominated. Essentially, there will be states that don't have a Republican primary. What ballot are they supposed to take? You could end up with a situation where a concerted effort by enough Republicans to flub the Democratic primaries could really screw with things. By the way, with the internet, with social media able to organize these things, I'm sure that some of these people are fucking terrified. They're shitting their pants over the concept of maybe 10 million Republicans trolling the Democratic primaries and totally fucking Super Tuesday. By the way, I advocate strongly for such a measure. It's not underhanded. You have the right in an open primary state to take whichever ballot you want, and in most of the rest, you can just sign up as a Democrat right before, and then, the next day you can cancel your membership. Why not? A concerted effort could see the nomination of someone totally unqualified who has no chance of winning, like Bernie Sanders. Maybe there should be a write-in for Bernie movement for the Republicans. Shift the Overton window so far to the left for the Democrats that they become unelectable. The candidate will be an elderly socialist who might drop dead on a debate stage. They're not going to win that one. Or they can go for Biden. Biden's probably the weakest front runner that we've seen in modern history. It'd be funny if it was for Kamala Harris. Yeah, or Tulsi Gabbard, Andrew Yang, UBI forever, free money for everybody. It's totally not a form of redistributionism that cracked the economy apart. It's totally not being fed by a few clown world enthusiasts who find it funny to look at my own demise and how I basically self-satirize anytime I speak, says Andrew Yang as he rakes in millions of dollars that he doesn't deserve. Isn't he already rich anyway? Fucking let him be rich then. He's totally out of touch. That's about all. Peace out.